Hope you guys had a great weekend. We are back out at the pasture. Just spoke with, well, I've been busy over here. We just spoke with my neighbor who's the water master. I should have all of the water that I want in 1.5 to 2 days. So that gives us a pretty short window to get everything ready. So what I've been working on, I worked on this yesterday, is this little section right here. I got all this graded out real careful so that the water will across here. Right in front of us is the ditch. Right there, so you can see how flat that is. This big pile of stuff right here is mostly just really grassy stuff that I'm going to have to get out of here and relocate. So we'll go over to the other side. Since this one's finished up, the other side of that cottonwood tree. And we'll do the same thing, but we'll do it together this time. First order of business is to pull out all the bushes. It's going to be so nice to be able to have that, to walk up to that irrigation ditch there without all those lumps and the bushes and you about turn your ankle every time I go over there. So I got the trailer set up, and what I've been doing is just going through, pulling out all the bushes and the trees, and then I'll haul that off to the burn pile, and then we'll regrade, and you'll kind of see what's going on here. Well, you got to stay after the land. That nature wants to reclaim itself, or reclaim its own. There's no, you never do get finished with this sort of thing. Usually I get it first grab. I'm not doing too good here. These are kind of little though. You got to get right on the stem. Just kind of groping around in the dark there. I can't see it through the tall grass. Those might be best cut off by hand there. Yeah, these are the hardest ones to grab, these little guys. They kind of slip between out of your thumb. Did I reach that? Oh, just barely. So, I probably ought to come clean about the whole Benchmade incident here. Let me drop this off. That's the worst self-inflicted wound that I think I've ever experienced. It was a grisly one. So, as you may have seen from the short, we've all been considering or taking a look at the 9400. This is the automatic version of the 940 Benchmade, which I've been carrying and I thought was pretty cool. I carry it without the pocket clip on it, of course. And now this This thing scares me now. I got PTSD after what happened to me. This thing has a a safety on the top right there. Now, I of course disregarded the safety, thinking that that was kind of a pain, you know, an extra step. When you close at 940, you don't have to put a safety on, but this one you do, for the very reason that I found out the hard way, that this thing can open on its own. Now, it didn't open in my pocket, so what happened was I had thrown this into the side of my briefcase, kind of just a pocket. It was just laying in there like that. This button got pushed, and this thing opened up in my briefcase and was sitting there just like this. That was about the width of the pocket right there. I don't know how long it's been sitting there. It was the perfect storm. It was just perfectly jammed up there with the point sticking up, waiting for me. Well, I mean, I always, you know how you stick your hand in a pocket, you know, when you're just assuming. I think I was reaching in there for my AirPods, and I was in a hurry, and I grabbed my briefcase, and I just shoved my hand down in there really quickly as I was trying to get out the door, and I came in contact with that knife, and that just split my pinky open about 1 inch long all the way down to the bone showing. It was horrible. Blood everywhere. Mrs. W was gone. I had the baby, and she's upstairs, and blood's going everywhere. So I squeezed it together, and I thought, goodness, how am I gonna do this? You know, deal with this baby here. And so she comes down, and you know, she's like, anytime there was any blood or a sliver or any sort of a minor medical procedure, you know, she's all about that. Wants to be up in it and see it. So she's all over me. We run out to the shop, leaving a trail of blood, and I get my super glue out, and I'm trying to pour it with one hand and pinch it shut. It's just not happening. Super glue's going everywhere, and it turned into this disaster. Super glue's running down my hand all over. I got half the bottle on my finger. Blood's mixing with it. It's all over the floor. I finally just grabbed a big Band-Aid. Grabbed a Band-Aid that I had there and wrapped it around as tight as I could, pulled it together, and eventually it stopped bleeding. So I was really reluctant. It was a horrible experience that evening when I had to take that whole mess apart and redress it with the blood and the Band-Aid and the half a bottle of super glue. Was not my best work. Probably should have had stitches in it, but no, I'd rather not. So, to be honest with you, so I've got it taped together. It's not bleeding, so I have to assume that everything is going well. All right, let us proceed. Makes the grass go greener. Maybe it does. I didn't bleed in the grass. I bled all over the house and my shop floor. Did I get that teeny tiny one? Oh, I had it slipped off. Yeah, I think we'll just bring the brush hog in on that. Okay. Are we all free of bushes? A couple more here. I didn't lose the grease gun. I was just greasing this morning, and it ran out, so I didn't put it back in. I threw it down by the quad. I got to take it up in there and refill it. Yeah, that's for sure. Electrical tape is it's probably about the best bandage you guy could get if you need to put pressure on something and stop the bleed. I agree with that. I've used that many times, and it's kind of water resistant or grease resistant, so you can usually keep on working. Where some of that other stuff soaks up all the grease and dirt. Come on now. Oh, those are hard little guys to grab. So this is such a monumental job. I actually talked to my neighbor, I think it was Saturday. I went over there, right next door here. He's got 40 acres. He runs cattle. And I think he's like third generation from the valley. So he knows the area really well. He used to own this property. He's the one that did all of the reels and the original irrigation system, figured all that out. So I feel very fortunate that I'm able to talk to him, and he helps me out with this stuff. So he was telling me, this is kind of interesting, he was telling me what we need to do, which was not, I wasn't too far off, but he's going to make it a little bit easier, is this. Okay, so if we look right there, gentlemen, right there, the water is going to be out and pouring out into this field. This is going to be in 2 days. And it's going to run across here. And then this is a low spot. And I was talking to him, and he said this has always been a low spot right here. And so what happens is, rather than going out there where I want it to go, or as well as I want it to go, it runs down to the fence line and then shoots down over there. So what he told me what we need to do is, what I've been doing over the weekend is I've been filling that area in, raise that whole area up about 3 or 4 inches with dirt, and just leveled out leveled out the field with a land plane. And so what he said to do is to cut basically little water bars. So it's going to be super fun. I can't wait till that water comes in, and it should be, I'll do the live stream when we're doing it live, but as this flows out, we'll just kind of move with it and work with it and add little water bars or reels obliquely across there at angles running into the field. So as those hit, it redirects it, because we still want water, all the way to the fence line. We want to keep everything green. So it's quite a it's quite a thing to try to figure out. And I've been guessing the best I can right now, but until the water comes in, it's hard to say. Should probably clean out this head gate. So we had an initial, the water ran for a half a day last weekend, I guess it was, when they first turned it on. And this always happens the first day they do that. There's a lot of debris in all the trenching, and us being at the very end, it ultimately comes down here. So if you look in here and see, this has all got to be shoveled out here. It's just thick pine needles. Boy, this is a whole lot easier than shoveling it out like I did last year. It'll all be good, provided I don't tear up my head gate. I have to be pretty careful in here. That's all delicate wood. I just gently scrape out the muck. Thank you about the finger comment. Yeah. I'll tell you, man, I live out of that briefcase, so I'm always reaching in and grabbing stuff. It's my man purse, I guess. And every time I reach in, one of those, the first few times was I'd grab, or I reached my hand back or recoiled, thinking, oh no, is that knife still in there? Now I'm afraid of it. I could never enjoy that briefcase again, I fear. Stick it in there and have a knife waiting for you. From the factory, with the factory edge that I'd never cut with, you know, it's really sharp. Okay. I clean this up by hand, but that will, looks pretty good. Got a couple boards in here, looks like I need to get out. No, we don't have any poison ivy up here. We have, now if you go down lower, I would say, yeah, we have poison oak, and it's horrible. Not up here. It doesn't grow up at elevation. But if you go down into the gorge, it's all over the place there. I never got it growing up. You know, there's a few people that are kind of immune to it. My family's always got it really bad. I've been in a lot of places where everyone else got it and I never got it, but I think I was so hyper exposed to it with wildland firefighting because we would drag our hoses through it, and it's kind of an oil that gets on it. It gets all over everything, and I would carry those hose bundles on my neck, and I started getting it on my neck, around my collar and stuff, which was really miserable in the summertime. Yeah, it's hateful stuff. Goodness. We have a super chat from Mr. Kyle B. Shout out to you, brother. Where's our horn? Shout out, Kyle. Kyle says, is the Mystery Ranch three-way still your go-to? Which one's the three-way? I don't know the terminology. Is that the briefcase? Yeah, my go-to is the Mystery Ranch. It's the briefcase that turns into a backpack. I have one, and Mrs. W has one as well. They're really good for traveling. And boy, they're tough. I put a lot of abuse on it. Oh, who distracted me there? I had those picked up. I wasn't even putting a dent in them. See if I can get them all. I think that looks like burn pile stuff to me. What do you guys think? You know, maybe not. I think, you know, I heard something in the comments I think I wanted to talk about that was, I have thought about it. I've thought about this all week. Here, I'm going to turn around where it's not so windy. Where's the wind coming from? Goodness, it's cold today. Yeah, so someone, and if that was you, come forward and claim your prize, but someone made a comment, something to the effect of, when you buy a piece of land that you're unfamiliar with, you didn't grow up with, maybe in an area you've never been there before, don't change anything yet until you live there a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. Don't take down any fences, don't re-divert this and that, you know, don't mess with irrigation ditches, and you know, there things, men have done things for a reason typically, unless you just had someone that didn't care for the land, but assuming that is coming into your hands from someone that cherished it, right? And multiple generations. Men are pretty smart, and the guys back in the day that worked the land and knew the land are a whole lot smarter than we are today. So I made the mistake of coming in thinking, oh, well, this isn't working, and I'll change this, and not like on a small level, but on a drastic level. When you start bringing heavy equipment out and regrading stuff and digging trenches, and you know, I caused myself so much aggravation that the majority of work I'm going to have to do over the next couple of years is going to be fixing or mending the things that I messed up. Had I just left everything alone, and yes, there were some problems, things were not working, but I could have finessed rather than just torn into it and ended up causing myself more work. I mean, I spend hours a day just picking the rocks out of the pasture that I put back in. You know, what took me a day to mess up is going to take me years to finish. But that lesson is so important because it's like the, what's the name of it's the old story of the fence. We'll talk about that. I'll have to go back and reread it. But I thought that was very insightful and very good advice. Before you just assume that you think you know something, sometimes the elders or the men of the past knew better than we do, and respect that, and don't just automatically assume that they didn't know what they were talking about, I think is where we're going with that. Goodness, we have a super chat from Mr. Rick Gates. What happened to our horn? Shout out to you. Thank you, brother. All right, let us proceed. I might just save these boards, to be honest with you guys, because I think the reason why I brought them up here is we were using them to divert water a little bit, and that would be handy. So let's see if we can stack them over there, get them out of our way, but I don't think we should. Probably not ready to burn them. American contingencies. Are Americans the only people that save everything? Like I can't part with these 3 radial boards that have sat out here all winter, primarily because I cut them on my sawmill. So I know how much effort goes into making something like that. I think we might be best served just to go through there with our blade. If I could get kind of leveled and flat, we could just blade that off. Try not to fall in the... Ooh, that's close. Yeah, this might be the best way here, but it feels like I can get pretty flat. Oh, we're falling in. Let's see what happens here. Oh, all this grass is such a pain to deal with. We haven't been able to mow this or anything because it's just so bumpy. So I want to get this all smoothed out so we can mow right up to the edges. Yeah, I hope not to fall in the edge there. I got a big robotic arm that can get me out of any trouble I might find myself in. Now we're cutting. That's the thing is, I think when you're doing dirt work, I've had to unlearn being trying to work too fast. You're always, in the past, you're always charging your clients by the hour, and so I always felt like I had to work as fast as I could to give them a good value. But in so doing, you can just get in too much of a hurry and things actually end up taking longer. It's best to just take little cuts at a time and reassess. Disturb as little as possible. Everything you disturb, you got to put back, make right. Those little black birds, there's something that they like when I turn up the soil. As soon as I start cutting, they're always here, and they're really brave. They don't seem to be too spooked. They stay out of the way, but they're not afraid of me. Grubs. Something in there they like. Certified forklift instructor. That's what I'm certified as. Ooh, there's a nasty fence post in there. Boy, that'll tear things up. Who can see it? There you are, you little demon. I've broken a lot of stuff with those silly things. Whoops. It's my best grab, too. Let's see if I can grab it again. Fence post is a hard thing to grab. I never knew anyone that was a certified equipment operator. I had a job out of high school. I worked at a manufacturing plant, and I was a forklift driver in there, material handler type of thing. I think there was a certification for that, but I don't. Of all the years I ran heavy equipment, I never saw any sort of a certification for that. All right, we're getting into new territory here. Yeah, the water is starting to pick up. I wonder if maybe, is that a rock? I wonder if it's going to start coming in earlier than I thought. Looks like I might have some rocks there we got to get out. That's just a dirt clump. Well, sure look like rocks. Just dirt clumps. You guys warned me about that 9400 as well. There were a whole bunch of dudes gloating in the comments, giving me the I told you so. And it's true. I was told not to carry that thing. Or if you do, make sure you, I would highly recommend you use the lock. I don't know personally that the benefit of the automatic opening offsets the danger or the potential, the terror of the that thing coming open in your pocket or in your briefcase. If you think it can't happen, I heard from a whole bunch of dudes that said that it happened to them just like it did me. Proho is definitely not ready for automatic opening knives. You know, this isn't working out very good. I think we'd be better off to get our, just go get our muck bucket. Let's do that, gentlemen. Goodness, we have a super chat from our friend Mr. Overton Windex. What's Overton got going on here? He says, you have talked to a lot of people in your audience into getting motos. Would you consider making a video outlining some beginner tips, some drills, and building skills? Yeah, I'll do that. I'd actually like to do that. Yeah, we'll need to cover. I've got my system down really, really good when it comes to protection as well. When I was younger, I never thought about these sort of things. I would just kind of do the minimum, and, you know, maybe throw on a pair of knee protectors and some boots and, you know, a generic helmet of some kind. But anymore, I think this is common with men. When you get older and you start facing your mortality, and you realize how much harder it is to bounce back from injuries, what commonly is done is, I think, a lot of guys, you know, you get into like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to be riding motorcycles, then I need to have every possibility of being safe in a crash, right? So you're going to have good equipment. That means quality body armor, quality knee braces, that sort of thing. It's all expensive, but you ultimately try to get to that. So, yeah, I've been thinking about that. I think I'll share a video on that on how to dress, because how you dress and how choices for armor and why. I ride all around, season round, winter and summer with the snow bikes and the Moto. So I have a pretty good idea of what works and what doesn't work, and I've got it really dialed in. So yeah, we could definitely do that. As well as, you know, don't overlook, you know, one thing you need to do if you're considering getting into motor, you know, dual sport, is you really need to understand how to work on the thing, you know, and the same thing when it comes to your concealed carry. If you're going to carry a G19, you know, it's a good idea to know how to field strip it, how it works, how the you know, the three safeties work and what they do and why, and how to disassemble it. When I was raising Jack when he was little, and I was teaching him these things, I would have him, even when he was just little, we would completely disassemble a Glock down, leave the trigger group in, but take the slide apart and the spring clip cups and the whole thing. And I would race him. I would do it blindfold and he would do it regular. So that you can work into games and things like that. But that same principle with your Moto, you need to know how to work on it, because when you get out, you can get out so far so quickly that you won't be able to walk back. And for lack of a pair of pliers or a zip tie or an extra spark plug, you know, if you have to walk back in Moto boots, you know, it's a bummer. Plus, it puts a lot of undue burden on your riding buddies, because, you know, we have an agreement with the warband when we go out. If one of us breaks down, you know, we're not going to leave anyone behind, it's not just his problem, it's all of our problems because we all have to get back. So we're pretty diligent about who we ride with and what we take, and we only want to be with guys that, again, they don't have to be mechanics, but they at least have to have the tools to do basic repairs on their stuff. So to ensure you have that when you're doing your service work on your bike, make sure you work off of your toolkit. Start building it now. Some bikes will come with a basic toolkit. You can go online and find out. There's dudes that have listed every tool that you need for a particular model. So you'll need a 12 millimeter, an 8, a 6, a 5, Allen wrench, these torques, so you can start building that kit, putting it together. And then when you're changing your oil, when you're putting new tires on, use that kit that you have, and you'll find out right away, oh, I can't take the wheel off because I don't have a 17 millimeter. I need to add that to my kit some way. So yeah, I think that's a great idea, Overton. I will certainly do that. Yeah, I will do that. Thank you, brother. All right, let us proceed. Let's go grab the big bucket. I feel like I'm going to fall in the trench if I keep messing around here. Another thing that's life-changing for the Moto guys, if you have buddies or you want to ride with your kids or loved ones, is putting the speakers in your helmet. We use the Senas, S-E-N, I think it's S-E-N-A or S-E-N-N-A, and they're pretty good. Make sure you don't get the bottom of the barrel one. Make sure it's got the mesh feature. As long as it's got the mesh, it's fine. And I've had good luck with them. They're not supposed to be worn in the rain or in an austere environment, but I've had mine on my snow bike helmet for 2 seasons, and it's all full of dirt, dust, but it just keeps on going. It's never failed me, and that makes gives so much more enjoyment to be able to talk to your buddies. Like we went last Sunday. 3 of us went together, and we all have the Sena headsets, and to be able the whole day, just riding and talking and chatting and warning one another about, hey, there's a hazard coming up, or a soft shoulder, or there's a car coming, or when you have a new rider, it's super helpful because you can give them advice on how to cross obstacles or give them riding tips and such. It makes the whole thing a lot more enjoyable. You do have to practice radio discipline, though. Sometimes you get a dude on there that's just chatty and he wants to gab all the time and talk too much, and you have to get him sorted. Yeah, it's okay, but the problem is that some of us like to listen to our music while we're riding. We get in our flow state, and every time, it's voice activated. So every time someone wants to chime up and tell me about the chipmunk that they almost ran over for the 15th time, it cuts our music off, and we get kind of sore about that. Mr. Tony, good to see you here. Tony's got a comment. He says, I just love being part of this community. Thank you, Cody. Tip my hat to all the mods and chat. Yeah, we have some great guys here. Sure appreciate that. Good to see you here, Tony. Sorry for the low quality stream, gentlemen. I've been out here from daylight till dark. There's so much to do that I just kind of have to bring you along with us. It'll slow down once we get caught up here a little bit. Should have probably grabbed my log. Oh, it's going to be so nice to drive right up to the edge of the grass and not have all these mounds. I think what's happened over the years as the ditches were shoveled out and cleaned out over the generations, that they just threw the dirt up along the side. Of course you would. Where else would you put it? But now it's just a big bumpy mess. So I want to, without disturbing stuff too much, I just want to even this out, plane it down to the level of the field. This grass, I don't know what type of grass it is, but it self-seeds, which is a really nice thing to have, I guess. So just a couple weeks with water on it, it'll be all reseeded. Oh, we have a super chat from Mr. Sparky. Shout out to you, brother. He writes, not a big deal, Cody, but you misquoted me on my 1940 Ford tractor live stream. It's an 8N, it's a 9N. Since it began 39 model 8N began in 48. Oh, yours is, okay. Yep, I'm sorry about that. I did not know. I'm not up to speed on the ag stuff, to be honest with you. I have not ever had any interest in farming or farming equipment, but that's changing now that I'm trying to learn how a little bit, or at least a few basic things. I find it more interesting now than I used to. Thank you, brother. Thanks for the clarification. Yeah, a little bit of water coming in, but not enough. We're going to need a whole lot more than that. Got low spots. If you can cut the sod in the low spots or the high spots and kind of shave there and place them over in the low spot. Well, that's a good question. Do you recommend a carbine length for a 14.5? I don't have a lot of time behind the trigger on that. So what the question is that if you're going to build the 14.5 barrel length for an AR is kind of cool, seems to me anyway, because that's the standard issue that the military's used for a long time. So known ballistics and for BDCs and a lot of different reticles and optics and such are going to be really compatible with that because they're based off of that military barrel length. Now, traditionally, it's been a carbine gas system. What's changed with like the URGI that I built up is that the 14.5s, the really skookum ones, are putting mid-length gas systems on there. So that increases dwell time. It moves that gas block further forward, giving the more burn time and everything. So it's a softer shooting. I have a couple mid-length gas and carbine, and the carbines are hit harder, and the mid-lengths are much smoother, which is a softer shooting gun, and it doesn't tear up your bolt carrier group and your components near as bad. So if I was going to start from scratch and I had a choice to go carbine or mid-length for a 14.5, I would go with the mid-length, 100%. there was quite a bit of shooting and research that went on in the developing of that URGI, that 14.5 that the Special Forces are using now, and I would take advantage of that. Yeah, good question though. Yeah, 14.5 mid-length. That's really kind of that's a sweet spot right there. I haven't shot mine yet. I've shot mid-lengths in 16s, but I've never shot a mid-length in a 14.5. Just read about it. Oh goodness, we have a super chat from Sparky. Shout out to you. He says tractor was an evolution of the other N types. Okay, that makes sense. Yep, that makes sense. God, this grass is such a problem. Eventually you can chew it up enough and move it around and flop it over that it'll kind of break up, but boy, it's hard to grade, and it takes so much. I can't just strip it because the roots are so deep. It takes so much dirt with it that I end up losing topsoil. So I'm just gonna have to kind of just slowly just keep working it. No, I think dozers, that's a good question. Is ProHo planning on getting another dozer? No, they're just obsolete. If you're looking for general purpose, I mean, in my opinion, there's so many disadvantages to it. They're the coolest. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like when you think about what's the coolest piece of equipment you could have would be like a D6 high drive, or maybe I don't know if they make a smaller one with a logging package, whatever Caterpillar offers with all the loggers package. So it has all the wire mesh around all the windows and all the cool heavy duty stuff and the protector for the exhaust and all that. I mean, and then you put the big drum winch on the back. It's the coolest thing ever, but completely impractical unless you're just specifically doing something. So if you need that power to pull things or to cut road or to rip rock, there's no substitute for that. But for general purpose, for professional homeowner type of use, I mean, that would not be your best choice. First off, it's going to be metal cleats, tracks, so you're not going to be able to use it on any sort of a hard surface, like if you need to go down your driveway or you want to bring it in for service in your shop. That's a big problem. A dozer is just a whole nother level of equipment. Whereas a track loader is going to be able to do so many things and so many things more, and you can have the option of having the rubber tracks so you can run it down the road, you can plow. I mean, there's just so much more versatile. I mean, if you had just an unlimited budget, would there be a place for a small dozer? Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd probably have it. But I would say no. No, I would say that's pretty much obsolete for the type of things that we're doing here, for sure. I mean, you can't plow snow with a dozer either unless you have special tracks. I ran into that with my TD20. Those tracks, the snow builds up on the inside of the tracks and they get so tight, I thought they were going to break. And then once they get tight like that, if it stays frozen, you are never getting that loose until the thaw. I mean, they make special tracks for that, but most dozers are not going to have those. So, you know, if you're thinking, oh, I got to plow a whole bunch of road, even that is not going to work for you. Pulling grade with an excavator or a machine like this is tricky because you have 3 things going on that you have to do at the exact same time. So you have your up and down, right? And then you have your stick in, this here, stick in, stick out. So as you're pulling, you have to compensate by lifting and pulling at the same time. Do you see? So that's all got to be done. That's all got to be done exactly right. Perfect proportioning to pull a grade like this right here. And then if you mix in a third movement where you want to move material, like I'm trying to move material over there to the left side, now you're not only are you maintaining your grade, but you're pulling and you're swinging to the left. So there's 3 things that you're doing at one time. And then if you're really clever, then sometimes you're running your tracks with your feet at the same time. Goodness, we have a super chat from Mr. Carl Zirk. Shout out to you, Carl. Carl writes, thanks for the inspiration. I hand dug a shallow well. It's great for the garden, outdoor use, emergency water. So glad not to have city water on the garden plants. Man, yeah, that's pretty cool to be able to hand dig a well. You must have a pretty shallow water table. I've read in a lot of old books, hand digging wells. My granddad told me, he used to have a saying, when it was really cold, when we would go elk hunting, he'd say, it's colder than a well digger's shoes. Have you ever heard that before? Now, I've dug a well too, at our off-grid place. Yeah, it is pretty cold, which you get under the ground, but actually it's not, because I've been in trenches excavating for a long time. I've worked deep, like, you know, beyond 20, 22, 24 feet, I think is the deepest I ever worked. And if it's super cold outside, it's actually a constant temperature in the earth, you know, 50 some odd degrees. But yeah, if it's summertime and you go from 90 or 100 down into a well digger's shoes, then I imagine they're pretty darn cold. Granddad said that they had to dig their well in Oklahoma, or his granddad did, and they dug it, and I think they lined it with brick. So they would dig and line. I don't know exactly how that process went, but I know that they would take turns. They would dig, and then they would haul the dirt out of the hole with the shovel or with the bucket up to someone else to dump it, and they would take turns and do that. So it can be done. It can definitely be done. That's a lot of work, especially if you have hard ground. Thank you, brother. I sure appreciate that. And then we have Mr. Overton. Shout out to you. Overton writes, nothing better beats a dozer for graboid. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we all know the story of was it the kill dozer? A man that was wronged and took matters into his own hands. Boy, the basement in that building slowed him down, though. Yeah, boy, all of these ruts and everything in here that are holding water are my own fault. Coming in here when it was muddy and making tracks and getting stuck, and good grief, I've caused myself aggravation. Just now starting to get a hold on what I need to be doing. Well, I have to tell you, Mr. Barr, on a scale of 1 to 10, how pro-ho am I feeling today? Probably about an 8. We had a little bit of a family emergency last night. Nobody's hurt. Everything turned out fine, but that called us away from our beds for a while, and I didn't get to bed till 2 o'clock or so. And for a man after 50, that's a hard thing. You know, I don't see midnight anymore and haven't for some time. So to be up until the wee hours of the morning, well, it's not good for my constitution. So I have to say that I'm not 100% today. Maybe 7.5, maybe 7.5, I'd have to say. And it's cold, which is not adding to my experience. Just trying not to pull those roots out. If I could just skim along the top, I could just kind of fill in the... It's hard dealing with this grass. That's looking better though. This is fun and all, but man, I cannot hardly wait to get my full ditch of water in here. That's when the fun's really going to start here. We're going to see the fruit of our labors, or if I made things worse, which is highly likely. Out here burning diesel for 3 days just to make things worse. It wouldn't surprise me. This is just a whole new thing for me. It's kind of a steep learning curve. You know, when you don't know what you don't know, I need to probably make it a habit once a month to grab my neighbor's favorite jug of whiskey and just go over there and have him walk the field with me. Give me a critique what I'm doing here. Probably save me a lot of trouble, be more than worth it. That looks pretty good. It is a beautiful day, though. You know, the thing with this, you comment on uncompacted soil, the thing with this, what I've noticed is I've moved dirt around and different ditches and things, kind of emergency measures to get the water going where I wanted it, and it wasn't, as long as I'm irrigating, it's not a month and you can't even tell I was even there. All the grass is back and it's perfectly green. If I irrigate this properly, I don't even have weeds in the field, like not one single weed. And because we flood irrigate, there are no animals, so there's no gopher holes or anything. It drives them all out. It's incredible, but just now, like I'm anxious to irrigate. Right now I'm seeing, if you look right over here, you'll see a few dandelions are starting to poke up. I noticed that happens, the dandelions come when it's dry. And I was told that the dandelions, when you see those, that's kind of an unhealthy field or a dry field. Again, I'm talking about things I don't understand. A field that's lacking water, those that's nature's way of breaking up the soil. They send that deep, strong root that gets down, taps into the water, and actually helps. So when you see I guess I've noticed, this is my 3rd year here, I've noticed that when I see those, it's usually dry. So we need to get that water on as soon as possible. Goodness, we have a super chat from our friend Smosh Mode. Shout out to you, brother. Here's a gallon of diesel. I appreciate that. Thank you, brother. It is a gallon. Well, no, we could get almost 2 gallons of diesel with that because we buy off-road. I don't know what your state is, but out here there's an option. You can buy tax-exempt fuel if you're not burning it on the road. So they put a dye in it, sneaky dye. So they make it red. So the cops, if they see a guy with red dye in a road truck, they give you all sorts of trouble. Oh, speaking of which, did you know that the federal government, our federal government, is ordering, you know how they buy a ton of vehicles, like for fleet vehicles, F-150s, the Forest Service has, everyone. I mean, who knows, they're probably the biggest consumer. Do you know that they're buying, their diesel engines do not use DEF? I've been watching video after video after video on social media of guys that are hauling them, that these are destined for 3-letter agencies, what have you, and they're coming from Ford, these particular ones, with the DEF system deleted, with a full delete on the diesel. So we, the peons, the slave class, we have to be subjected to these ridiculous EPA regulations, but the very people that impose them upon us exempt themselves. Are you enjoying the government that you're paying for? I know Overton had a very nice experience. He was trying to get his motorcycle endorsement, and after a half or the better part of a day wasted, he accomplished nothing. Not because he did anything wrong, but because of the foolishness and the waste and the grifting of the government. So how long does a man continue to pay into a system that isn't holding up its end of the agreement? There's expectations. If we're going to pay for public services, then we need to have public services. But when public services, they keep coming with their handout every year, another levy, another this, another that, more money, and they're not providing these things, and all of these employees are making double what you guys and we are making, how long do we continue to support this system? How long before you have a moral obligation to your family to not to throw good after bad? Where's the tipping point? Yeah, so you have to drive a diesel with all of that trash on it, but the government does not. If you're not angry about that, Proho, then you are not alive. You're not a human. That is some serious injustice. They're laughing at you. They think you're fools. And the more we put up with it, the more I'd have to agree with them. Seems to me it wouldn't be a bad thing for you to find a way to push back in your own way, whatever that may be. All of us have unique skills and access to, we can cause effect in our own way. We just have to be clever about it. Of course, we should all never break the law, act accordingly. Boy, it is chilly. Woo! Goodness. Must be 50 degrees out here. My blood got thin from all that hot heat. I guess I could close the door and turn on the heater. Oh goodness, we have a super chat from Suckit. There you have it. I recently did a deep dive into Ruby Ridge in Waco. WTF, Cody, I couldn't believe how cruel these government agencies could be. Yeah, well that's a big, what do you call it? The crimson capsule, a red pill. Yeah, I've known about that story for a long time. I'm surprised how many people are just coming to the knowledge of that, but it's true. Unless you were kind of in the know about what happened to Dennis Weaver at Ruby Ridge, you should look into that. Federal agents, in some people's opinions, set him up, and what he did wrong, how I understand it, was someone came to him and tried to buy a gun, wanted to buy a sawed-off shotgun. And he was just kind of oh yeah, you want one? I'll make one for you. Cut it off and sold it to it. Happened to be a federal agent, and they moved on with a SWAT team, killed his dog. I think federal snipers shot his wife while she was holding their baby. I mean, go into it, look yourself. Yeah, you think the government's on your side? You think it's representing you, and you think that the fluoride that they put in your water system is because they care about your teeth? and all of the vaccinations and the dosage for a 4-year-old child is the same as a 300-pound man. Yeah, it's all trust the science there. It's time to start looking out for yourself. And realize that no help is going to be coming from this, and actually, they may be the they may be the adversary. That's what some people believe. Some people even believe that they're the enemy. But thank you, Suckit. I appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat. Did you get your horn honk? Shout out to you. And did I miss one? Backing up. I think we're good. All right, let us proceed, gentlemen. That's looking better, wouldn't you say? I'm trying to kind of roll some of that dirt, build up that bank a little bit. I don't mind spending the day out here doing this. It looks like I'm really working hard. That way I don't have to actually go do anything really hard. Yeah, and what that trader Janet Reno did with those poor people at Waco, was, well, that was just as bad, worse. I guess if you're just going by straight body count. And yet the people responsible for all that, the killing of those children, still breathe the same air as you, beloved. Not doing too good here. There we go. Do I have any thoughts on Jeeps? Oh, I do. You guys may not know this, or some of you may know this, that I'm probably the foremost expert on Jeep Wranglers from 1997 to 2006. I had a wrecking yard that dealt exclusively with TJs, which are that Wrangler body style, for over a decade. I know every single nut and bolt. I can identify every piece on it. I know how to repair every single thing on it. I know how all of the things that go wrong and how to it goes on and on and on. You know, I took apart 100 of them or better. Well, of course, it's a Mopar, so it's garbage. We could kind of start with that right off the bat. Now, I like them as well. I mean, no shade here to our Jeep guys. I have had several Rubicons. I get it. But from someone who knows them intimately and has built rock crawlers, and I know every single nut and bolt and every problem, and I actually, it was kind of interesting having a wrecking yard, watching them progress over the years and watching the factory take measures to repair things that are known problems. How do you know that they're problems? Well, when you start getting phone calls, do you have this piece that's broken inside my heater core, this piece that's broken in my ignition, my steering column, and you're selling out and everything you have is gone because they regularly break. You know this, and then when you're taking the next year apart, you see, oh, they changed this because this was a problem. So you can see the evolution. I watched the evolution for 10 years of how that Jeep changed and got better. You know, in some ways, but also they'll make it, for one thing that they make better, then they'll take something that was metal and then make it plastic, and it's worse now. So it never really ever gets better. It just changes. There's a saying that Jeep guys, some guys we used to have, is that everyone sometime in their life has a Jeep at one time or another, but they never have one for very long. And that tells you all you need to know. I remember Mrs. W, 9 months pregnant, trying to get into my TJ with 35-inch tires and a 5.5-inch lift kit in it. It was hilarious. Oh goodness, we have a super chat from, I gotta get serious here, from Gamer Dave. Good to see you, brother. Shout out to you. Where's your horn honk? Gamer Dave writes, missed chat was Xavier Goslin. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry, Xavier. Shout out to you as well. He writes, hi, Cody. What is the best first aid kit that I can buy? And mine was, hey, Cody, I don't know what the second part means. My favorite kits, what I would recommend is you'd go over to Refuge Medical. There's a couple different, the way your kits are going to, there's two different types of kits. A first aid kit is not necessarily a first aid kit. I would differentiate them as one you need two. One is a trauma kit, a blowout kit, an IFAC, you know, what you're going to see a soldier carry on him. The minimum things you want to have in that, and you can put together your own or get one pre-made, is going to be like a tourniquet, an Israeli bandage, some combat gauze, maybe some blood stop, a pair of trauma shears, and, you know, maybe a chest seal if you're a little bit more advanced. You can just go look up IFAC. Now that is going to be something that you're not digging into on a regular basis. That's something you're going to have on you when you're using your chainsaw. You're going to have it on you. You're going to throw it in your truck when you leave the house. Whatever, you're shooting, you're always going to have that on you because that's what is for you. That's going to be, if I drop a chainsaw bar and cut my femoral artery, you've got about 30, 60 seconds to stop that bleed if you can before you die. And having a tourniquet, having that blowout kit on your belt, on your faller's belt, is the difference between life or death. There's no question about it. How are you going to stop a femoral bleed if you haven't practiced or thought about this? Could you do it with a belt? Some people could, not everyone. Do you know how to do a windlass? Do you know what that means? Do you know how to tighten up a belt? It's not as easy as you might think. You have to put tremendous pressure on a main artery like that to stop the bleeding. I'm just saying that it's not as simple as you may think. So practice these things. So there's that. So an IFAC is what you want to have. Now the other is going to be your general first aid kit, where that's going to be where you're going to go to for your bandages. So when you cut your finger on your 9400, that's what you're going to go to. You're going to have bandages. You're going to have a small pharmacy in there with your pain relievers, your over-the-counter stuff. You're going to have blood sponges and stuff, but maybe some eye wash, you know, just a general purpose. Which one should you get? It depends on how many people you're buying it for and what you can afford, because these kits are expensive. A good IFAC is going to run you $100. There's no way around it. That's just the cost of the components. A good first aid kit for a family, that's going to be what Nothing Fancy would maybe call an expedition size, something you could treat multiple people, is going to run you close to $500 or $600 to do it right, properly. So that's basically where you want to get. Where I would start with is I would start with a trauma kit. Have that first, and then once you have that in your repertoire, then go get a basic first aid kit. And I would go with two companies. My favorites are our friends over there at Refuge Medical. Probably the best. These are the best two companies I've ever seen. Refuge Medical and David Pruitt at AMP3. He's a good friend of mine. Portland, ex-Navy, U.S. Navy NER Doc. U.S. NER Doc is his YouTube channel page. And he's a good dude as well. He's got a lot of practical experience, and he's put together a really good comprehensive kit. So either one of those, go to their sites, go to AMP3 or Refuge Medical, and just check and see what they have, and just buy the best. Just buy what you can afford. So first aid kit on one side, trauma kit on the other. Good question though. Thank you, brother. I sure do appreciate that. Sorry I didn't get Dave, I didn't get that last part of your question. I'm not familiar with those. Someone in the chat, we have a super chat. Goodness, shout out to you. He says, hey Cody, have you ever heard of Vincent James of the Red Elephant? Would you consider talking to him on stream? Vincent James, you know, I have heard of Vincent James. I have heard of that, but I don't know what it is. I wouldn't be opposed to talking to anyone. I'd have to find out, you know, what he's about. See if it would be something that would, yeah, I would look into it. I don't know if you have a contact with him, but yeah, have him send me an email. All right, let us proceed, gentlemen. Man, I'm gonna turn some heat on. I gotta close my door. I think the temperature's dropping. Oh, the instant warmth. going to be our new road. Instead of driving out into the pasture and mashing a mile of grass down, we'll just stay right here on the edge, and we'll just keep this mowed around the perimeter, and then we don't mess up our drainage. What I've done is I've had to like do little, like right here, I hand shoveled, I needed a drainage spot right here, but every time I drive over them, you know, it's really hard on the quads, it's a huge bump, and then it fills them in, and they don't drain properly, so I'm going to put the road up, I'm going to do something different. We might even put some culverts in. Shout out to Mr. Jason Barr. Mr. Barr says it must be nice to have an excavator. It certainly is. Yeah, I feel very, very fortunate. Very fortunate. This would have been so far outside of my dream back in the day, like when I worked by the hour in the construction trades, and I never had, I remember when I was making $10 an hour, like if you would have told me someday I'd have my own excavator, I would have laughed at you. I didn't come from, I just didn't come from a family that, or maybe it was the church that I was raised in. There wasn't like great expectations of a man's life or accomplishment. The only expectation that I had was to be a husband and a father, have maybe a good construction job, maybe be a superintendent or something. You know, that had probably been about the height of my ambition. Needless to say, we've raised our son very differently. How that works out, I guess we'll see. No, you cannot borrow the excavator, Mr. Bowers. Absolutely not. I'll tell you, there are two people. No, I was thinking about this. There are two people that there's two people that I would loan my excavator to. There's actually no more than two. Let me think. If I thought about that, right now, if they called me, I would loan my excavator out to a week without a care in the world. 3 people I know. That's it. Why? What? I'll tell you what. There's something that all 3 of them have in common. See if you can guess. Of 3 of the friends that I have that I would loan any piece of equipment to, I wouldn't lecture them. I wouldn't give them a list of what they needed to do and reminders. It would be an automatic yes. What is the common factor between these 3 men? Who can guess it? There is a common thread between all 3 of them. I'm getting some nice grading here. Yes, of course they're competent. You know, that goes without saying. But there's something beyond that. They could fix it. That's not it, but that's another common thing, yeah. But that's not the one. They all have cats? No. No, but you're close. Respect. Yeah, respect is there, but that's not it. That's automatic. Oh, we have a rock. Let's see if I can snatch that rock out of there. Oh, I almost had it. Nah, I lost it. No, I'll tell you what they have in common, gentlemen. What they have in common is this. they all own excavators themselves, and they've all had the same experience that I've had with loaning them out. That's the common thread. I've had many a man professing to be a man of God that did not take care of stuff. It looks very nice and flat. That's a lot better. We're gonna be able to not tear up our side-by-sides near as bad here. That'll get all nice and green too. Yeah, Matthew just said it. You know, never lend a piece of equipment to a man that doesn't have any, doesn't understand how much damage you can do, the responsibility that comes with it. Yeah, it's owning versus renting. I mean, it's basically what it comes down to. Interesting question. Any thoughts about Europe? I'm not the geopolitical maestro by any means, but I am definitely a biblical scholar, and there's a prophecy about this. Europe has never been able to get along. France, England, Germany, Spain, you know, for all of the recorded history that we have, you know, they've constantly been warring and battling. Their cultures are very different. A Spaniard is very different than a Frenchman. I mean, it's markedly less now with the flood of immigration into many of these countries that is, you know, kind of watered that nationalism down. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's in, I think I've got water. We got water coming in, gentlemen. Yeah, it's coming. Excellent. Well, anyway, when the EU came into existence, you know, kind of in our lifetime, where they decided, all the European countries got together and said, you know, we don't want to have all these multiple currencies. We want to be able to travel freely between borders, and basically turned it into almost like a united set of countries, you know, with common laws, and so that you can work and travel amongst the EU and such. But that was supposed to be the utopia. That was going to be the future. Oh, we're all going to be one homogenous nation, one wonderful thing. Well, what happens with human nature is we do not like communism. Communism, just that when I'm talking about communism, just that idea of we're going to put our things into a common kitty, and then we'll disperse that out to people. Well, what tends to happen is that there's a group of people that put more work in than others. And it doesn't matter if you're talking about a country or you're talking about a division of labor in your home or even on a job site. You tell me, if you're working with a bunch of dudes and some guy's loafing and he's skirting work or he's shirking his duties, but he's drawing the same paycheck as you are, it doesn't take long before resentment sets in and the group will turn upon this man. It's abhorrent to us to have to deal with someone that's not pulling their weight. That's why that system won't work. And when the rich nations, you know, the Germanys, the England, the France, when so many of the resources that they were producing from their ability to do so, to have a better economy or a better industry, is going to fund lower or less advantaged, to use their language, countries, that builds resentment, just like it would in a family. The good book tells us that in the end days that these European nations will try to cleave together. You know, it's in the prophecy in the book of Daniel. There's a giant statue that's built of the head of gold and the silver and the bronze, and the feet represent the end times. This statue in the book of Daniel is kingdoms through the ages of Bible prophecy, talking about giving some insight of these nations that are going to come, rise, and fall. And in the end times, it equates what many biblical scholars believe to be this end time is represented as these feet of the statue. And the material in the statue's feet are made of something different, of iron and clay. The iron and clay will never mix together. You could kind of melt them together and pour them into a mold, and they might take shape, but there's no strength or structure to there. It wouldn't be like forged steel. It will dissolve like a sandcastle. And it likens this union of something that has been put together that is not able to come together as a whole. And we've already started to see the cracks. So I think it'll be in our lifetime. I think we'll start to see the exit of these European nations. Now, we had the Brexit, which England already left, and there's other countries that will follow suit. The more that countries come under stress and the good times are gone and the money's not freely flowing, and people are starting to wake up and like, well, I don't know how I'm going to pay for food. We can't even heat our house. And now we're sending our money to another country, to Ireland or to Spain or to Portugal. People are just not going to tolerate that, and they're already pushing back. So what does that mean for Europe? I just don't know. I don't know. But the Bible tells us that they will not be able to come together and that something will happen. So it's hard to say. It's interesting to watch, though. It's going to happen quickly. Mr. Tony Baloney, shout out to you, brother. Tony writes, you think anything catastrophic is going to happen in the next week or two? I read U.S. senators being issued satellite phones. Get your house in order. Man, I've been hearing this the whole time. I've been hearing for the last year, the government is emptying out their offices. There's no one working there. There's skeleton crews. I've watched social media videos of truck drivers that are hauling load after load after load, 18-wheeler loads of goods and supplies to underground bases. I mean, this is all out there. It's being done. It's almost as if the noise on the street or on the internet is that they're boarding Noah's Ark and there's a great flood coming or something's happening. And the people that are in the government, we have been farmed for our labor. Our parents and grandparents have been farmed to build underground bases, underground facilities. They claim that they have underground tunnels, highways that run the entire span of the country. It wouldn't surprise me that we've paid for, that they've got stocked with food, supplies, material. It essentially is an ark of safety that they have access to that we do not. And that the conspiracy theorists or the people that talk about this will say they're making plans right now. They're waiting for the call where they and their families will go for safety, and then they'll turn something loose, terrible upon us. I don't know. I couldn't possibly speculate. It wouldn't surprise me either way. That's why the man who holds on to the rock, which is the word of God and the promises of God, and has the prophecy, and we know the outcome, he doesn't have to get too stressed out about these things. God's will be done. We have to be ready, good soldiers, spiritual soldiers, to be ready to answer the call when that time comes, whatever that may be. And God has the ability and has in the past to supernaturally protect us in all sorts of environments. He saved the children of Israel from the crossing of the Red Sea. Can he not do that today for his church? Can he not protect them from viruses, from pestilences, from anything? He tells us all the time not to worry. Something that just came to my mind. The story of is it the 10 virgins? Do you guys know the story from the New Testament of the 10 virgins? I should reread it before I start talking about it. I'll go off of memory. Christ tells a story about there's going to be an allegory. There's going to be a wedding. And in the Christian faith, a wedding, a union between a man and a woman, is used. Oh, the water's definitely coming in, gentlemen. I was going to end the live stream, but we might have to keep it open for a bit here. Let me finish up what I'm doing, then we'll go take a look. But this marriage between a man and a woman before God is symbolic of, I guess, the reunion or the ultimate, the future wedding, which will take place, that will be the union between God and man, where we will be reinstated back, no longer separated from God the way we were originally designed. The reason why we're not happy, beloved, is we were never designed to live in this environment. Because of sin, we've been separated from our Father, and we have to communicate Him through other means until He returns for us. So this story is that there's a young couple there's going to be a wedding, and everyone's getting ready. No one knows exactly when the bridegroom is going to come, but we need to be ready, because when the order comes out, the wedding feast is about to start, the gates will open, admittance will be granted to those that are waiting to attend, but once everyone's in, then the gates will be closed and access will be denied anyone that wasn't prepared and ready to be there. In this line are 10 virgins, 5 wise and 5 foolish. They all have lamps. The 5 wise virgins brought extra oil for their lamps because they didn't know how long the bridegroom was going to tarry, how long he was going to be preparing for this wedding. They knew they had to be ready, and just in case he was longer than they were expecting, they were wise, they brought extra oil. The 5 foolish that were with them as well did not bring extra oil. And as they were waiting long in the night, the word still hadn't come out, their lanterns started going out. Now they had an important role to play in this wedding. They needed to have the lanterns. The whole procession was dependent upon these virgins and their lanterns for it to take place. Well, the foolish ones, when they began to run out, they said, "Hey, you guys brought extra, give us some of yours so that we'll have enough." But the wise one said, "No, we don't have enough for us and you. You should have brought your own extra. We only have enough for ourselves. Here's what you should do. Go right now real quickly, go to the store and buy some more. Come back, we'll save your," I'm paraphrasing here, "we'll save your place in line. And then you'll have enough." Well, they left, ran to the store, and sure enough, right when they left, the bridegroom came, called, opened the doors to the wedding feast, and admittance was granted to those that were waiting, prepared and ready. The 5 wise virgins that brought the extra oil. And then after everyone had entered, the gate was shut. Well, the 5 foolish arrived shortly after the gate was shut, knocked on the door and said, "Let us in. We want to come in." But it was too late. The bridegroom is Jesus Christ, and the marriage is the second coming. And being prepared, the wise virgins, that is Christ's church. Those of us that we don't know the time or the hour, no man knows the time or the hour, but we're preparing. We have extra oil in our lamps. So when I say we don't need to worry, that's true, but it doesn't mean that we don't have an obligation to have some preparations. Those wise virgins they prepared. They had stocked up extra provisions to get them through uncertainty, difficult times, and they were counted as wise. God will count us as wise, those of us especially that are heads of our households, that we've made provisions for difficult times. Beloved, do you not know that the scripture says clearly that at the end times, those members of his church are not going to be able to participate in the economy? We won't be able to buy and we won't be able to sell. During COVID, people lost access to jobs and restaurants and sporting events if they didn't do what? Can you see? It's not difficult to see how easily, especially when we go to a full electronic monetary system where cash is no longer used, how they could cut you off from this, from your ability to go to the grocery store and feed your family, basic medicine, clothing, gasoline, spare parts for your car. You're going to see these things happen, gentlemen. It's not going to happen with food. It'll happen with things that are not as important first. First, you won't be able to go to, access government services. Then you won't be able to travel. Then you won't be able to rent a hotel room, etc., etc. And then it will get to the point where you won't even be able to buy food for your family. And at that time, it will be too late. You will be like the virgin that went to the store at the last moment. Well, then I'll go buy emergency things. Then I'll go and buy an off-grid property or buy a country home. Well, it'll be too late then. The good book says in that situation there'll be wailing and gnashing of teeth when the realization of man, when he comes to the realization that he squandered his opportunity, chasing after the lust of this world of things that were hollow and meaningless, and did not put an emphasis on his faith and relationship with his Creator. There will be a great wailing and gnashing of teeth. In my lifetime, we haven't experienced a sorrow like that. A sorrow so great that men, I read a lot of history, and I've read about how people conduct themselves and what they do in great stress. Men will actually pull their own hair out. It's been known for men to sweat blood. Women at great loss of their children or watching their children killed in front of them will wail and beat their breasts and gnash their teeth for all these things people will do. This story of the 10 virgins is something that we should really pay attention to and read and to get into and study, because it is a warning to us of what our obligation is. We don't know the time or the hour, just like they didn't know when the bridegroom was going to come. But they did make provisions. They were wise. They knew that it could be at any time or it could be later. And that's why they brought the extra oil. All right, man, this water is coming in. I think we might have to. Let's go take a look, gentlemen. We have bigger fish to fry here than this grating. You guys are going to see it in real time here. Are we going to have enough is the question. Let's go take a little walk. Let's walk up to the head gate and we'll see. Come off the mothership here. Boy, it's windy today. I was just grading. Did you see how much water was in the ditch when we started? It was just a little trickle in the bottom. Look at that. My neighbor's a good dude. I was over there. He's the water master. He's the guy that knows how to farm and originally did all this land. And so I always try to be respectful, because I do less talking and more listening when it comes to him, because he has so much knowledge. He's this rough, tough old guy, ex-logger. Has a real hard shell on him, but he's really a good guy. I really enjoy him. But I went over there. He's like, I guess you want some water. Like, yeah, I do. I said, you know when it's coming? Oh, I don't know, man. It's going to be a couple days. And sure enough, he must have went in there and turned it up for me because it's starting to come in. So what he's doing now, I'm the last one on the ditch. So he's irrigating right here. He's got 40 acres and he runs about 60 cattle or so, if I had to guess. And so he's watering this field here. And then I'm just getting some overflow. So as he's flooding out here, it's falling into the ditch, and then this will build for us. So this will get higher and higher and higher, and then we'll start doing our grading. So that's pretty cool. Really cool. I'm super stoked. Here's another head gate here. So we could stop it right here and blow it out this way. Oh, look at all the debris. Yeah, so this came down the trench. I gotta clean all this out. But when this is flowing properly, this will be full all the way up to the top. I'm guessing it'll take me, when I get this whole system dialed down, it'll probably take me about 3 to 4 days to irrigate, where I'll have to kind of be out here, keeping an eye on it. I'm going to be working on this for a couple of years till I get it all to flow properly. But once it's all done, I'll just turn on the head gates, and then I'll kind of know this will need to run for about 8 hours, 12 hours, and then shift to the next one. But this is exciting. Okay, well, I know what I got to do. So we'll wrap it up here, but when this comes in, this is going to be pouring out through here, and it's going to run right down here. And I put up this little earthworks here temporarily. It's going to hit this and kick over here, which is what I want it to do. And hopefully none in here. And then I'll start working this back, and I'll have to kind of grade this so that this flows evenly all across here. And then we'll start probably putting in water bars. So it's gonna be flowing. It's a ton of water, man. When that thing is going full blast, it's like having a small stream running through your pasture. So you really got to take advantage of it. It'll run down here. And I've got this graded out pretty good. I've done quite a bit of work on this weekend, and it's getting really flat. That looks a whole lot better. And then we'll I'll put probably some water bars, kicking that off. My neighbor told me, I thought that I was going to raise this whole thing up right here, but he told me that it's always just the lay of the land. There's a bit of a V right here, and it always kind of takes a beeline down there. And what they have done in the past is run oblique angles like this little water bars, reshooting it off there. And that's what I'm going to try. Rather than try to raise this whole thing up, that makes a whole lot more sense. Whole lot more sense. All right, gentlemen, I'm going to shut it down, get back to work. Hopefully we'll have something cool going on tomorrow, and we might actually be flooding. We will see. Oh, the endless job of casting rocks out of here. Well, thank you for hanging out. Thank you for all the super chats. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Mr. Overton and the middlemen for helping out with the moderating. That's always greatly appreciated. Please keep us in your prayers. We pray for you guys constantly. Pray for my family as well. It seems as if we're certainly under attack from the adversary. You know, if your life is going well and you're not really having any issues or problems or conflicts, it's been my experience that the adversary has you firm in his camp in hand, and he likes to leave sleeping dogs lie. When you start getting close to God, you start pushing back a little bit, that's when you feel when you'll have his hand upon your life. But our God is greater than him, and we don't have to be fearful of that. But expect to be tested. It's just part of the life. God wants to know who's going to stand in the gap when times really get tough. And if we can't do it now, then we're not going to be of any use to him then. So this is a training period for us. So realize it for what it is, as hard as that is sometimes when you're going through difficulties or things that you don't understand. It's a basic training. It's God seeing, will you stick? Will you hold? Will you trust me in the little things? He tells us that if I can find you faithful in these little things, that is like that spiritual, it's like building a muscle. You can be faithful in greater things, and you can build that up to the point where you can be, you can be a hero for the kingdom someday. You can have such great faith that Christ tells us that in the end days that we will be able to do things that are even greater than what he did when he was here, and he raised people from the dead. So we have a lot to look forward to, beloved. It's a great honor if we be the ones that still be standing on our feet at the second coming, and to be able to participate in this work is one of the highest honors. And your deeds and what you did in the end times, if you remain faithful, will be echoed throughout eternity for all of God's created people. Great heroes that overcame a tremendous adversary, and I look forward to that. Look forward to that. We don't have the opportunity to be heroes too much in this life, but we do. We will. Look at this. Here it comes. All right, I'm signing off. Grabbing my shovel, get to work. I sure appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with me. We'll see you guys, Lord willing, on tomorrow's stream.